Hey guys, how's it going? Hello, hello. Good evening, good evening. Good to see you guys. I'm just going to go live on Facebook as per usual. And while I'm doing this, say hi. Let me know where you are watching in from, how you're feeling today. I'm doing awesome over here. We have beautiful sunny weather again, which is exciting. And we've got a cool topic today. I always say we've got a cool topic, but we're going to be talking about health personalities. And so it will be really interesting to see whether you guys relate to any of these health personalities. Which one are you? Hey, Lisa and Eric, good to see you. Hey, Gwen, you doing all right? Good. Hey, Kathleen, good to see you guys. Okay. I think we are streaming live, which is cool. Awesome. I think we're in business. Yeah, as I said, so today we're going to be talking about health personalities, and I was having a chat to Dr. Bart about it before the show, and you know, we both said that we both identify with different parts of these health personalities, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not you do the same, because I think there's different elements in here, but we need to be able to take it and see how we level up using this information. Dr. Bart in the house. Who you got with you today?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Who you got with you today?
Oh, right there we got Dr. Bob. Right next to me I got Georgie, and then right there I got P. Diddy. I'm sure you guys will hear him shortly.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Should we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's dive in.
All right. So welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple show. To get started, I want to introduce Dr. Bart Precourt, who has been a healthcare provider for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, acupuncture, kinesiology, nutrition and supplementation, and functional testing, all out of his clinic, Balanced Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida. He's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a cutting-edge online health program for executives and entrepreneurs wanting to take their health to the next level. So he's also worked with thousands of celebrities and athletes around the world. And tonight is going to be talking about 3 health personalities. What do we mean by that?
Yeah, question. So, of course, always good to see you, and good to see everyone here again. And thanks for everyone for joining us. And those of you who are on Facebook, welcome aboard. And remember, if you guys have questions, just put them in the chat here. So where this came from, Karen, I'll give you an idea here. So just not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I was up in New York / Connecticut, and I had an opportunity to speak at a leadership summit. And I do this usually a couple of times a year. It's a pretty cool group. It's actually an awesome group. It's a group of it's all men, and it's entrepreneurs from around the country. And I was asked to speak about what did we learn about 2020? Like, what did we learn about health in 2020, and where are we going to go with it? So that's really where tonight's episode is all about. And it was, it's a real important topic. The best way I can say is 2021 is not going to slow down. Everything we experienced, just yesterday, Karen, no, 2 days ago. I take that back. I think it was yesterday. I don't know what day it is anymore. Yesterday, I was just listening into a conference from the World Health Organization, the WHO, and they were talking about what's coming, and it is mind-boggling. What is down the road, already in plan for us. Our our country doesn't know about it. Your country doesn't know about it. We're not listening. We're not paying attention. They already have multiple plans for multiple sets of vaccines scheduled out through 2028. And it's because we're not asking questions. We're just sitting back and we're just doing nothing. So it was almost a little disturbing for me to listen to some of that and how the average person's not going to be heard. So with that being said, you guys listening to this, even right now, click a share button, do something, spread this out, because I'm gonna shed some light on this. And the only way things really change, you and I, each one of us, we decide individually to level ourselves up. And so this conversation about the three health personalities, they've been real apparent to someone like myself and a lot of people in healthcare for many years. If you're really starting to pay attention to people and their personalities about how they're approaching health. Now, 2020 brought this to the limelight. 2020 showed us, listen, what we know, every one of us, there's no argument about, is health the most important asset we have in the world? And the answer is yes. Like, this is hands down. The bummer is that the actions aren't necessarily following. Now, all you guys listen here tonight, you guys are like a different breed, and you're going to see where you fall in terms of those personalities. But unfortunately, even though our biggest concern in the world is hands down health, the actions for health are not there. Listen, alcohol sales in our country have doubled. Fast food sales are up 50 to 70%. Sugar companies are having record production of sugar, record production. It was on a decline and now it's back on the incline. All of this just doesn't make any sense when the biggest issue in the world right now is our health. So to answer your question, where did this come from? This has been kind of a collective thought process for me, looking back, and I had the opportunity to speak to a bunch of entrepreneurs at a summer just a weekend ago.
Yeah, and I think you were telling me about those stats before before the show, in terms of sugar and fast food sales and alcohol sales. And really, it's crazy to think, and I know that'll link into what we're going to talk about with the health personalities, but how, we're shutting down countries, we're shutting down whole economies because of our health. And there's some really good research that everybody can access that shows sugar, fast food, alcohol, none of those are helping protect you from something like COVID. And yet they're going through the roof. So this stuff we're going to talk about today is really important.
Yeah, so it's really good, and I'm gonna say to all the listeners here, and I see a lot of you that are here. I can't see who's on Facebook right now, but I do know this, and a lot of you have followed me, and thank you for doing that. Follow me enough to know that, listen, I'm in this game with you, and the goal is to win. It's not to get by. It is literally to win. And sometimes as a result of that, we gotta get pushed a little bit. You know how valuable tribe is to me. You know how valuable association and accountability is. So with that being said, some of the things I say tonight might sting, but before you just get mad at me about it, just take it in for a moment and just hear the big picture of it. If it stings, quite frankly, it's probably because you didn't want to hear what I had to say, but this applies to all of us. So I'm going to give you 3 personality types, and I give them all names. And we're going to have a little fun with it. And before I start, Karen, I'll tell you, all of us have all 3 of these people within us. It's really the most important thing is who has the steering wheel on any given day, who's driving the car, who's steering the ship the most. So let's dive in. And again, if you guys have questions along the way, you'll see there'll be times for questions. They're going to pop up soon. I'll answer any of the questions, because Karen, you know what I'm going to do with this? As long as time permits, I'm going to tie this into COVID and talk about real life stuff. So, I practiced this morning, and a lot of things came up about, again, getting the vaccine, and we need to have these conversations, and I'm willing to do this. And again, it's not because I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm a pro-health person. The people watching this, you guys are pro-health, and I want to keep giving you as much as I possibly can so you can continue to make the right decisions. So with that said, let's dive in. 3 different types of health personalities. And this is the first time I think I've really talked about it in this context. And so I'll give you the names first, and I'll describe all 3 real clearly for you so you know where you're at. First one is Follower Fred. And you might make some notes on these because you'll see the trends here. Follower Fred, and then we'll come back to Follower Fred in just a moment. Number 2 is Mediocre Mike. Mike is mediocre. And then listen, if your name is Mike, I apologize. It could be Mediocre Mary too, right? So it could be Mediocre Mary, Mediocre Mike. And then there's Harry the hero. And Harry is a hero. And I'll explain to you why. And it could be Heather the hero as well. So anything with an H just kind of rhymes. All right, so let's go back to Follower Fred and kind of talk about the personality that Follower Fred is in their role and how they participate in their health. So there's some key characteristics about Follower Fred. Number one is this, that Follower Fred believes things happen to him. Okay, him or her. He believes things happen to him. For example, he gets high blood pressure, goes to the doctor and says, hey, you got high blood pressure. Man, look what happened to me. I must have got it from my grandma, my grandpa, my dog, my neighbor, my cousin, the tree, whatever, right? And he said, man, it just happened to me. And Follower Fred also doesn't have a plan for his health. Follower Fred is at the fast food restaurant. He doesn't have any connection or correlation that what he puts into his body impacts his health. Another way of saying this, that Follower Fred takes zero responsibility for his actions and his health. And listen, we've all had Follower Fred in us. We've all blamed a certain thing that we've gotten on someone else. How many of you listen right now, they've got on a plane in the past. Now you can't cough on a plane. But any of you have been on a plane in the past. Someone was coughing in the back seat. You get home, you got yourself a cold and you blamed it on that person on the plane. That's
guilty.
But that's a Follower Fred mentality, because that person on the plane did not get you sick. Your host in that moment was weak, and that was on you. That's what you did on vacation. That was too many shots down in Mexico, whatever it was. So Follower Fred, that's his personality. He doesn't have an exercise routine. He doesn't have anything to fall back on. He doesn't have any good stories about when he was young and his athletics, none of that stuff, because that's not what they did. They were just Follower Fred. They go to the doctor, they get checked out, and they say, you have high cholesterol. He goes, okay, what do I do? And Follower Fred just says, okay, I take these medications, go home. How you doing? I'm fine. What do you mean you're fine? Well, I have high cholesterol. I take another medication. That's Follower Fred. Sadly, this is a massive part of the way that our country goes about their health. Karen, in our country, we consume 50% of the world's drugs. We don't have 50% of the population. The United States of America, I think it's 40%. We consume 40% of the drugs in the entire world. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. We have a Follower Fred mentality. So if this is starting to sting, I told you it was going to sting, right? This is what I mean by it. So Follower Fred easily deflects. He just doesn't want to take the responsibility. So, and listen, most of y'all listening to this right now, you're not Follower Freds. Because Follower Fred's not on this call. There's a part of you that's a Follower Fred, and I hope this one stings. You go, you know what? The high blood pressure might just be my fault, and therefore I can take action for it. That high cholesterol, that extra 20 pounds, might have been my doing, right? So with that being said, let's move on to Mediocre Mike, because Mediocre Mike is really, it's where we have to make the biggest changes and have the greatest consciousness. So Mediocre Mike's interesting cat. The biggest characteristic about Mediocre Mike is that Mediocre Mike does not want to get uncomfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mediocre Mike is different than Follower Fred. He's actually very intelligent. Mediocre Mary, very intelligent. They use Google, and listen, they know, right? They say that. Oh, I know that. I know this. They've read the books. They've been to the seminars. They've been on the podcast. They've been on more podcasts than the average person could even listen to in a day. They know about keto. They know about paleo. They know about low carbohydrate. They know all of these things, but they're not taking the action. So a lot of us got Mediocre Mike. Listen, the things that I bring up every night, every week, here, and the things that I post on every day, my simple health tips, truth is that's not new information. You can find all my information somewhere on Google, just maybe in different words. So it's not the information they lack, but it's the action, the willingness to take that action. So Mediocre Mike has a bunch of characteristics. So he also has the characteristic of very good at telling you what he used to be able to do in all his health issues. To be like, yeah, I had this heart stent over here, and this shoulder had rotator cuff surgery, and that foot had this, and I had the boogly woogly disease over here in this knee, and I used to be able to throw a ball that far, and all of these different things. And that's what Mediocre Mike does. And he uses all of these things. So the person he's talking to, listen, this is on a subconscious level, but this is very, very real. To get the person in front of them to buy into the excuse of why they're not the best version of themselves. Listen, we all have that in us. We have a freaking great Rolodex of excuses that we bust out, and we're like, oh, this is, oh man, it's Karen. She's smart. I'm going to have to dig deep here. And you come up with these different Rolodex of excuses, and we say them over and over and over again. And Mediocre Mike, sadly, starts to believe in those excuses. I think one of the saddest things about Mediocre Mike, and I really mean this, is sad. I believe Mediocre Mike believes that his best has probably passed him. And same with Mediocre Mary. They might be right around like our age. Everyone listens to this, 40, 50, 60 years old. And we have seen in this tribe, and I see some of the names here, we know, listen, you guys did the Level Up Challenge. You did the cleanse with us. You know your best days are not done because you know you're whooping ass right now. And you've started, you relit. You were Mediocre Mike, and then you chose to get uncomfortable, and you lit things up, and all of a sudden you recognize, man, this is pretty good. I can be more than I was yesterday, and I'm going to go for more. Mediocre Mike doesn't take that approach. He has excuses. Time and money are his best ones. I don't have time for that. I'm busy at work, et cetera. But there's some real characteristics about Mediocre Mike. He's the dad who gets home every night, too tired to play with the kids, too grumpy to hang out with his wife. And I say this, listen, I just got done talking to entrepreneurs from around the country, several hundred, some were on virtual, some were live in audience. And so I'm referencing guys, but I'm talking to the ladies as well. Mediocre Mike does not have boundless energy. He does not have energy all weekend for his family. He doesn't have it anymore. And he has his list of excuses why. So he starts to shift his energies into things like business. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs do. That's what a lot of business guys do. They put their energy there, and that's their excuse for not putting it here. So Mediocre Mike. So a Mediocre Mike is the guy that you see you see him at Starbucks. And you're like, hey, Mediocre Mike, how you doing? And Mediocre Mike goes, man, living the dream. And in that moment, both you and he knows he's full of shit. He's not living the dream, but he's saying it. And he may look like it on the outside, but he's not, because the dream is to feel good every day and to have energy and to be creative and to be willing to take to get uncomfortable. To go a little bit farther.
And both of these guys, I mean, one of the big things, I'm hearing you say is that it's really in their mindset, in the perspective of how they see themselves, how they see what's happening to them from the outside, what they feel like they have control of, even though they do have control over their own body and their actions, they feel like they don't have control. And as you said, the excuses they make. It's really, it starts from their mindset and it's feeding out into their actions and then their health.
Yeah, 100%. So let's make this real for a moment. So I'll speak to the guys for a moment. One of the things that I'll often talk to my guys, and I'll say to my Mediocre Mikes about, and saying, listen, you want to move forward. We know one of the two biggest keys of aging or not aging is your flexibility and your strength. So you want to make sure you stay flexible and strong. So most of my guys are strong enough, 60 years old, 70 years old even. And the biggest issue is the flexibility. So I'll encourage them to do yoga, and they won't. And they won't because they're unwilling to get uncomfortable. And there's two parts of this, Karen. It is physically uncomfortable for them to start yoga because they're too tight. And then the discomfort emotionally of not being able to do something great. And that's Mediocre Mike's issues. That Mediocre Mike, in back somewhere subconsciously, has this thought that if he can't do it like he used to do it, he ain't doing it at all.
And that's such a big one, what you said, like, if not doing it unless you're great. The people that succeed in things, the people that get healthy, the people that actually just have the most fun in life, I have found that I've gotten to experience or work with, are the people that are willing to give anything a go. you know, if they gave yoga a go, they gave it a real go and then decided, hey, actually, I still don't like it, or you know, it's not helping me and there's something else I want to do, cool, right? But it's that ability to give it a go. And what you're saying is mediocre Mikes, they won't give it a go. It's too uncomfortable to try something that's new, something that they might have to start at the beginning again at. But as you get older, I mean, starting at the beginning again, you know, it gives you something new to learn. It keeps you young, keeps you progressing, leveling up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the challenge. The biggest challenge now is, especially, you know, as adults, we have no one holding us accountable. You know, week in, week out, we talk about accountability, we talk about tribe, and I mean it. Like the reason that, like when we did that 30-day challenge back in, I think September, October, that so many people got so many incredible results. The tribe supported, the accountability did it, the cleanse that so many of us just did. The reason being, it wasn't because you lacked that knowledge. People know how to do that. It was the tribe, it was the accountability. Mediocre Mikes don't necessarily like or give that permission, that accountability permission to other people. So if you guys are listening to this, and listen, again, we all have mediocre Mike, and I want to share some with you, on a personal level, that I get mediocre Mike. Like, I was mediocre Mike for about 10 years of my life, not too long ago. I was holding on to a little bit of everything. I was doing okay here and there, and I started to shut things down. And when I say that is, as things got harder and harder, I would retreat so I wouldn't lose, not necessarily to win. So one of the commitments I made for my own health about 100 days ago was that I was going to get myself in shape enough so I could then get back into mixed martial arts. So, but I want to explain this. So in a moment, I'm explaining Harry the Hero. And well, for example, and I'll talk about Tom Brady is an example of Harry the Hero. But I want to go back to mediocre Mike and say how, and show how we have it all in us. So I stopped mixed martial arts a couple of years ago, like 8 years ago, as a result of not wanting to get hurt. I was getting hurt all the time. And really the reason I was getting hurt is that I was no longer doing what it took for me to practice mixed martial arts. I wasn't sleeping right. I wasn't taking the right nutrition. I wasn't doing all the things to reduce inflammation, you know, saunas and cold baths and taking copious amounts of fish oils and turmeric and all that. I wasn't doing all of those things. I was just trying to go do mixed martial arts. And then, of course, when I did that, I would get banged up. I'd hurt my neck, get banged up, whatever. And then it interfered with the rest of my life. So mediocre Mike, it was easy for me to say, I'm mid-40s. I probably shouldn't be doing this. And this is how you can almost start to believe it. And I started to believe it, Karen. Started to believe it. And literally, I was getting old, like from the inside, but I didn't have any accountability. No one else was saying, you got to hold yourself, like holding me accountable, saying, Bart, this is crap. Like, you still got it in you. You just got to get uncomfortable.
Yeah. And everybody needs someone to say this is crap, because everybody does that as they get older. And I love to have examples of people as they get older still doing awesome things. There's a nun over in Europe who started doing triathlons at 80, and at 86 did a full Ironman. I haven't done a full Ironman. I think maybe I'll do one day, but I'm sure as hell not close right now. And she's doing it in her 80s. There are people that are still winning cycling races and doing amazing things in their 90s. Like, having examples, or having people to say, hey, it's crap, or having examples of people who are older and continue, because otherwise that's the biggest excuse I hear from people all the time. And I know maybe I haven't got, older to the stage where I've started making those excuses, but I hear them so often, and age doesn't have to stop you doing these things.
100% correct. So I want to share what happened in my 100-day commitment. So, which is kind of funny, and I share this because I'll explain why. So, I had an accountability partner. I belong to that group of men. They're entrepreneurs from around the country. One of my accountability partners, we hold each other accountable. One of the things I said is that I wanted to get back into, literally like fighting shape by January 1st, 100 days ago. And he said, what does that mean? I said, really, what I want to do is I want to get back into beast mode. And beast mode for me did not mean going to the gym and just like crushing myself because I was like all full of it one day. But literally, beast mode to me meant going all in and not giving myself excuses and believing that there was still a lot of gas left in the tank. Yet I had to be willing to do what it takes to get there. And that was the hard part. So my sleeping schedule got better. My diet got cleaner. I went through the 30-day challenge. I did the cleanse. I, do everything that I was already doing good, but better. And then sure enough, 100 days later, I'm back in, and it fills my soul being able to do. I love mixed martial arts. I love punching and kicking and all that kind of stuff. And I can only do this because I have a responsibility to my business and my employees, and I have a responsibility to my wife, that I'm not stupid, that I can't just go there full of bravado. And I say this because this is no different than someone saying, oh, I don't care about COVID, and doing nothing about it. That's stupid. We still have a responsibility to the people that we love. So we still have to take actions to get us there. Tom Brady's a perfect example. So, and I got to go back to Harry the Hero in just a moment, but Tom Brady is a full-blown Harry the Hero. So Tom Brady literally is getting better with age. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Not because of age, but with age. And what I mean by that is this. He's literally, what's interesting, Karen, so you're in Australia. So he is a football. That's the one they throw here. Okay.
Yeah.
33 years old. He's definitely the oldest quarterback in the league. He's the best. He's hand down the best. He's won 7 Super Bowls. He's arguably the best athlete and has the most accolades than any other athlete in the world. So with that being said, what makes Tom Brady special is not that he got better at throwing the football. He got the other things better. He cleaned up his diet 10, 12 years ago. He went to a plant-based diet, and he focused primarily on reducing inflammation so he could recover from getting punched. When I say punched, he getting hit in football. That would be the same strategy of getting punched in the face by COVID, reducing inflammation in your life. So when people say, well, what can you do about COVID? We should be on this terror of getting inflammation out of our lives. That should be what Dr. Fauci, who is, I think, lost his mind, quite frankly. That's a side note here. I'm just going to stop there. Anyways, so Tom Brady, what's making him the best with age is the fact that he's doing all the things around it. He got married, has children, he has responsibility, accountability. His diet is impeccable. He has the best diet in the NFL. Now he has other players, Aaron Rodgers, all these other guys who are extending their careers, following his footsteps. So that model right there is not getting better because of age. And we're going to talk about in a moment, but he's getting better with age. We're going to talk just a little bit in a moment about dying because of COVID or with COVID. And those are significantly different. And I'm prefacing this because what we do leading up to it. So Tom Brady's success did not start last week or last year. It started decades ago. He's been in the league for 21 years. So what he's been doing for decades dictate what kind of results he's getting now.
Yeah. And I mean, with Tom Brady and what you just said before, and even last week, what we were talking about, it does start though with a belief that you can actually do this. So Tom Brady believed that he was going to be able to stay healthy, stay in football, and stay the way he was as he got older. You had to believe that you were able to go back and do mixed martial arts and not hurt yourself and be able to do it. So I think we actually have to believe that we've got control over our health, and we're going to be able to fight COVID. We're going to be able to withstand the things that come and, as you say, punch us in the face in 2021.
I might even take it a step farther and say, absolutely, I think you got to believe. But I think even before that, you just got to want it. That's it. You just got to want it. And then if you want it, and I think that this kind of like sums up what a lot of what I want to say tonight is if you want this, and that would be to win 7 Super Bowls like Tom Brady. If it is that you want to get back into beast mode, if it is that you want to become the best husband, the best father, the best mother, the best wife that you possibly can be, if you want that, it's entirely different than not wanting to be sick.
Yeah.
Not wanting to get COVID. And this right here, man, I want to headbutt people because it sounds so simple. I know that conversation sounds so simple, but we are across the board in our country here, Karen. We are not taking what do you want? We're taking what do you not want approach.
And that focus, so many of us are focusing on what we don't want, rather than spending the time figuring out what we want and then focusing on that. 100%.
Yeah. So Harry the hero, let's go back to him for a second. So the beauty about Harry the hero isn't always necessarily the brightest dude in the gang. He's the clearest dude. He's clear of what he wants. She's clear of where she wants to go. And as a result of that, willing to take the action. So let's make this real for a moment. So we have this incredible little organic cafe that we created right next door. My wife is doing an amazing job. It's just literally unbelievable. We are 100% organic, 100% canola free, 100% gluten free, 100% soy free. Like we knew that's what we wanted, had no idea how we were getting there. So I let my wife do everything and now we're there. Anyways, so it's interesting. So I have the mediocre mics in my office and I can strong arm them a little bit. And I'll say, all right, dude, today you go next door and you go over there and get yourself a green drink. And then they'll go over there, get themselves a green drink, come back next week, and they'll be like, oh my God, I'm never getting one of those again. It tastes awful. That right there, that's mediocre Mike. Mediocre Mike will put his taste buds ahead of his dreams.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that's real, look at what's going on in our country. Look at what's going on with sugar right now. The dream is to stay alive, is it not? Like, come on. Like the dream is to stay alive. Like, let's live, let's thrive, let's be the best versions of ourselves. Yet we let things like our taste buds, like our desire to eat sugar instead of a green drink, instead of like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale. And listen, I know I'm singing to the choir in this group, but all of us, we're there. The other thing about mediocre Mike, he knows what to eat, but he also, and he'll eat pretty good. And we all know that pretty good sucks, right? Like when if I ask you, how's your health doing? You say pretty good. It just rings, doop, sucks. Yep. Barely doing the basics to just get by, just dodging.
You're not eating McDonald's every day. You eat some vegetables sometimes.
Occasionally, that's pretty good. So for mediocre Mike, what that really means is that he's just doing enough to get by. But here's the interesting thing about the mediocre Mikes that I think a lot of those of us who use mediocre Mike will understand this. He jokes about the fact that, oh man, I'll eat some green stuff, but I'm not giving up my ice cream. I'm not giving up my chocolate. Literally, I was on a consult yesterday, Karen, and it was the exact same thing. We were talking, dude's not in good shape when it comes to his health. No big deal. We're creating strategy, navigating through, talking about doing a cleanse. And he asked me, straightforward, 100% serious, does that mean I have to give up my chocolate?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you might actually have to give it up for a little bit. I don't know if I can do this.
It's also just, I mean, we're so quick to jump on the things that we have to give up. That person's not thinking, oh my God, what am I going to get? I'm going to get amazing energy. I'm going to get a better relationship with my partner. I'm going to get life, like you said, not, I'm going to actually be able to extend my lifespan. I'm going to actually feel good. So many people don't even know what it feels like to feel good because we're not willing to give up. And you know what? I love chocolate as much as the next person. I'm not saying I've never have any of that, but yeah, I think it's that perspective. As soon as you say, maybe change this up, people are very quick to go, oh, I don't want to give up my alcohol, perhaps. I don't want to give up my beer.
Well, and here's maybe the most telling quality of Harry the hero. And this is the one I'm hoping that everyone here that's listening to this on Facebook and on Zoom tonight really start to think about adopting this very consciousness. And that's this, is that Harry the hero recognizes that everything is at risk. Realizing that everything without their health is at risk. Listen, you can lose your business, doesn't mean you're going to lose your spouse, doesn't mean you're going to lose your health, doesn't mean you're going to lose your relationship with God. If you lose your health, you lose all of those. You lose your business, you lose your partner, you lose your relationship with God, because without health, you have nothing. So that's what Harry the hero anchors it on. When there's a tough decision to be made, he thinks about the bigger picture and he doesn't let the small thing interfere. And the beauty is when that happens, in that moment, you get to experience beast mode. And to me, that's what beast mode is. You get an opportunity to experience what God gave us, like this this body that can be full of energy regularly, it can be relentlessly passionate, it can be relentlessly loving and kind and supporting other people. But without putting in the work, it just doesn't happen. It's not a free, there's no free rides.
Yeah. And as you said, even loving, kind, your personality, like how you feel, how you're treating other people is totally impacted by your health. If you're putting all these fast foods, sugars in, you know, a lot of the time you're not showing up as the nicest or best version of yourself to the people that you love around you. 100%.
All right. So I want to kind of like shift a little bit, and I want to take these three, right? And I want to talk. So we're going to take follower Fred, which could also be called fearful Fred. So followers thrive off of fear. So the more fear there is, the more there are followers. So where there's follower Fred, then there's, of course, mediocre Mike, who doesn't like to get uncomfortable. And then there's Harry the hero. And Harry the hero, one of the other things about Harry the hero, other people are going to look at Harry the hero and make fun of him. You know,
yeah.
The dreams are too much. You're too old. You're too short, too tall, whatever. You can't do that. You won't stick with that. And that's what's going to happen.
Why aren't you eating the cake? Why don't you eat the stuff? People love to comment on what people eat, especially if you're eating healthy. They don't comment if you are eating the cake, if you are eating the McDonald's, but they totally love to comment if you're eating the healthy food.
So I want to bring this conversation just a little bit because it's real. And again, you know, I practice several days a week, and I have an opportunity to get a pulse on what's out there. So this is still a big thing. And the conversation about dying with COVID versus dying of COVID. Now, there's a lot of conversations saying, well, if you didn't have COVID, you wouldn't have died. That's not true. So I want to say it like this. If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease. So I just ran into this case 2 days ago with a practice member, and their family member has had heart disease, and they had COVID. They had a heart attack, and they were marked up as they died, which is absolutely unfortunate. It was inevitable. They were going downhill, but the heart attack is what killed them, and they were marked as dying because of COVID. So that racks these numbers up. So in our country, Karen, we have, I think it's over 400,000 deaths right now being blamed on COVID. And it's out of perspective. And I know some people are going to get upset with me by saying this. I'm not saying that many people didn't have it, but it's not the cause of their death. The cause of their death started decades ago. And what I mean by that is that heart disease, obesity, diabetes takes a tremendously long time. And what happens is listen, if you're walking around in today's age, eventually you're going to get punched in the face. Punched in the face could be anything. It could be shingles. It could be pneumonia. It could be the flu. It could be COVID. It could be a common cold. It could be something. It could be a car accident. You could have an accident, you trip and fall. Depending on how you are, how close you are to beast mode, how close you are to being the best version of yourself, determines what happens when you get punched in the face. So there's a big difference between causation and correlation. And this is the conversation that we have to start to have amongst ourselves of saying, really, what are we facing here? The correlation is that age. Tom Brady's getting older, but is not age making him great. It's a correlation. He just happens to be getting older as he's getting better. Someone with heart disease, someone with diabetes, someone with obesity, someone with, COPD, they have these pre-existing conditions that when they get the correlation of having COVID simultaneously, there's an issue there. And I say that so we can start to identify, what do we do? And that needs to be the question. So for example, what we should be asking. So right now, the big challenge, and again, I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from this. I'm not saying COVID doesn't exist. I'm not saying anti-vax. I'm putting myself in a position of essentially Harry the hero right now, where I think all of us need to be asking the proper questions so we can come up with the answers, so we can become the best versions of ourselves. And in order to do that, we know right now that pre-existing comorbidities are the biggest issue relative to COVID. Okay. 600,000 people a year, well, up until this year, died of heart disease. Now heart disease is going down because of COVID. So if you know you have a pre-existing, that is where the questioning should start.
And I think you brought up a great point, even just that we should be questioning. Like, we're allowed to question, as we talked about in one of our other shows. Question if you're putting food into your mouth. Question if you're putting different different things into your body. Question question everything when it comes to your health, rather than just perhaps being a follower, Fred, and taking what people say. Have a look out there, make your own decisions for your health. And then, speaking of questioning things, we talked about a couple of questions we were getting earlier around COVID and the vaccine, since we're on that topic. Can we answer a couple of questions around that?
Yeah, gladly. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously the vaccine started to roll out, and one of the questions we got is why does the shot hurt my arm? Like, when you get a vaccine, why does it hurt?
Ooh, that is excuse me, Dr. Bob is joining us. Man, Karen, that's an awesome question. Like, literally, that is a question. And here's the crazy thing. Even in this group, I don't know if anyone's ever asked that question. Like, why does it hurt? What's going on in there? I know we just accept it. I know we literally just say, oh, the vaccine really hurts my arm, and we don't even ask about it. So let me explain to what takes place. We're putting a toxin in our body. We don't really ask what it is. And when you put that toxin in the body, it immediately is killing cells. It becomes a neurotoxin to the nerves. So I'll just give you an example. I had a gentleman in today. He said, yes, I got my first round. And listen, I don't frown upon him. I don't judge him. And I say, awesome. So how you doing? Are you taking your turmeric? Are you helping your liver getting to clear out? And he was like, oh, that's interesting. That's a great idea. And I said, well, how'd it go when you got shot? And he goes, man, I couldn't even lift my arm for 3 days. I couldn't feel it for a little while, turned black and blue. It was extremely painful. I couldn't sleep. Well, what's taking place? We put a toxin into the body. It's killing the cells around that. It's very much like getting a punch. It's very much like getting a bruise. Those toxins, when we kill cells off, it changes the pH, and that's where the pain comes from. It creates inflammation. The inflammation oftentimes can put compression on the nerves, and you can get a numb arm, and you can lose mobility. These are common symptoms. So we should ask, is this okay? What do I do about that? I'm not getting punched in the face. I'm getting punched in the arm with a shot. Do I just leave it like that? Should I do anything else about it? And that's where Dr. Hodgson and I, maybe 2 weeks ago, I think, talked about, if you're going to get a vaccine, absolutely, positively, it is not normal to take a medication and be in massive amounts of pain and get sick from it. Listen, that is not normal. It's standard because no one's asking the questions. But just to sit there and accept, like, this is a good thing for us. No, absolutely, positively not. And listen, oh man, people think, oh, well, that's a reaction to the vaccine of the white blood cells. No, it's not. We are not putting an attenuated vaccine into the body. And let me explain what that means. We're like, in the past, vaccines meant if you had measles, we put measles into your arm, and you had a white blood cell response to the measles. And that's how you developed your antibodies. Folks, we're not putting COVID in your arm. That's not happening. This is an entire different mechanism. It is causing this spike protein to have an inflammatory response to it. And it's no joke. So yes, we have to clear the inflammation. So a great question, Karen, which might be the next question you'll ask me, is
why is the second one worse?
Yes. Why is the second one worse? Is it a different type? Is it harder? Is it more toxic? No, it's not. It's because we're more toxic.
Yeah.
So here's the way it's going, Karen. We're toxic. We're unhealthy. The majority of our country are follower Freds. We're not really paying attention. We're not uncomfortable with our diet. We want sugar, we eat it, period. That's what I mean. So when I say it, like, if you want sugar, you just eat it. You don't, and again, I'm talking to a group that probably has a lot of discipline, but maybe someone else is listening tonight and thinking, if you go to and you put a toxin intentionally into your body and you're already toxic, you're going to create a more more inflammation in the body, too much for your liver to handle. That is where you have this hyperhistamine, hyperanaphylactic reaction. So that happens on shot number 1. Boom, you can't use your arm. Well, between shot number 1 and shot number 2, did you cleanse?
Yeah.
Did you clear out your toxins?
Yeah.
Did you do anything to level up your health? No, because we're not asking that question. No one's asking, should I do anything to mitigate the symptoms in between? Should I do anything to clear out the excess toxins? Should I do anything to get myself stronger before I get the booster shot? Not even a word of it. And listen, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't heard a single protocol out there that says, after you get your first shot, make sure you get rested, clean out, drink water, make sure you get cruciferous vegetables. Why fiber? Well, fiber is the only thing that takes toxins out of the body. Like, there's so much information that we could share with each other, but it's not even being talked about because we're not asking the right question. We're not asking what we just want. We just don't want to lose. We just don't want to die.
How amazing would it be if that information did come out? As when we were talking about in that episode, if you are going to take, if you choose to, or the vaccine's mandated, or if you are going to take it, like, fine, that's also your choice. But if you're going to, then all these protocols could come out with it. Imagine how much healthier people would be. And I guess what you're saying is it wouldn't hurt as much the second time.
Well, in theory, you would still have a response because you're still putting a foreign chemical in the body. There's no way around that. And just the molecular structure, what they're putting those chemicals into the body, they're toxic. They're going to kill cells.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, I'm gonna go back to my boxing, examples here. If I punch you in the face one time and you handled it, what if I punch you again? Maybe I knock you out on the second one.
Yeah.
It's the same amount of force. And that's the thing we're not thinking about. And that's why they say the second one is more dangerous. And it's not because it's a different material. It's because you just got punched in the face. Yeah. So we should ask these questions. So for my patients that are asking me, I say, listen, pause, time out, slow down, cleanse out, do a 3, 4, 5 day, 10-day cleanse, right? Yeah. Yes, and get uncomfortable. Unfortunately, I've already recommended that a couple of times. In the Mediocre Mike, some of them said, nah, that's too hard. Follow me? Yeah. So
too hard until you get really sick. They almost still aren't linking it. Still a little bit of follow a Fred in them that's not linking those actions to actually the fact that they need to do it to feel better. They kind of believe they'll be okay. I'm going to be okay.
And here's the challenge for Mediocre Mike and Follow Fred. 2021 is going to be a really, really difficult year. The reason being is because there's no end in sight for vaccines and other medications. And listen, I don't think anyone thinks, man, the more vaccines, the better. I don't think anyone has that strategy. But right now, that is the strategy. You're already hearing about the other strains, South African strain, UK strain, California strain. Oh, man, they are already producing different types of vaccines for these. So that is the plan instead of saying getting healthier. And I say this, man, and I'm glad we will record this and we will have it on, so we can go back and look at it. The time is now. If you are thinking about, man, I got to level up my health. I got to level up my family's health. A lot of the ladies, I see a lot of the ladies here tonight. You're going to have to level up your husbands because your husbands are mediocre Mikes. And you can tell them I said that. How do I know that? Because that's who I work with on a regular basis from all around the country, all around these successful businessmen. Man, they are mediocre Mikes when it comes to their health. They are the biggest wuss bags. They forget about it. Yoga, forget about it. Listen, I'm joking, but I know it because that's what I do on a daily basis. So ladies, you're going to have to level up your health. You level up your family's health because you guys aren't going to do it by themselves. They're going to need some accountability. So that's going to be important because 2021 is going to give us choice after choice after choice after choice. And like Tom Brady about a decade ago chose, I want to do this forever or whatever, until I'm 45 years old. That's his goal, 45 years old to be the best NFL player in the world. And therefore he started doing all the things. He never once tried to become a better thrower of the ball. Yeah. That's that part he's not changing. It is all the things around it. How he sleeps, get rid of the inflammation that help him level up the game.
Okay, so if we're listening to you and we're thinking, oh, we've got maybe a little bit too much follower Fred in us. We've got a lot of mediocre Mike. I know there's a lot of people on here that do have a ton of hero Harry. So that's awesome. But when we're identifying some of these other follower Fred, mediocre Mike, what should we do? What's the best thing? What's your advice for us? Because we've listened to you and now we're like, hey, we need a bit, we do want to try and be more Harry the hero.
Well, I think it starts with a couple things. And I think there's some of the deeper questions to ask ourselves. One, ask yourselves, are you the best version of yourself? And Karen, I think it starts right there.
Yeah.
You know, we can say whatever we want to the world, but deep down we know the answer to that. Yeah. 100 days ago, I had to answer that. Like, it was more than 100 days. And I admit, like, listen, I spent probably 10 years as a mediocre Mike, and no one really would have known the difference. This last 2-3 years, I've really focused on becoming the best version of myself. And it wasn't just, I want to make this clear, it wasn't just about me going to the gym. This was about getting my life to be more congruent. And I think that's what everything, for a lot of people listening to this, tonight, and we'll listen to, as a replay, that asking yourself, am I the best version of myself? And then what would that version look like? What would she walk like? What would she talk like? What kind of energy would she have? How often would she smile? How much would she play? What would the vacations look like? How would she have the energy for vacations? How often would they play with the kids and have those moments, those special moments? And think of it that way. Let those things that drive really our actions, asking those questions. I think that is maybe the only way to put the goals of just losing weight and stuff like that. I think they're awesome. I love them. I don't think they're going to carry us. I don't think that's enough to carry us to make a lifestyle, literally a choice, a conscious decision about who we are and who we become. I think we should set our goals at the moon, like the super ridiculous goals, and then create a plan for them. And then we get the goals all the way down to today's goal. To get to there was just to eat better today. And then tomorrow is eat better than yesterday. And then to do maybe one more push-up next week than I did this week. And to really chunk those things down. So I think, to answer your question after, where does it start? Literally everyone ask yourself right now, are you the best version of yourself today?
Yeah, love that. And I mean, if people once they've done those questions, if people are listening and then actually don't have that strategy plan bit to get there, they can get a consultation with you or another practitioner, or you do online health consultations throughout the country, right?
100%. Yeah. And so that's a great point. That might be that when you get your accountability, that might be part of the accountability. If you know you need accountability, you get yourself, it could be anything for people. That could be, you start off with lab work, and then that starts to lab work. Where am I? And then, you know what you got to kind of put in place to get to that next level. So I think, along the way, so let's make it even more specific. So like, let's, and not to get off that, because I think that's really the question that needs to be asked. Like, where do I start? Where do I go with? And I will tell you right now, you got to find accountability. Whether it's a doctor, a coach, a workout partner, a friend. I don't think it should be your spouse when it comes to your health. That can get a little tricky. I think the respect.
But when it comes to your spouse, accountability, I think environment is almost, it's part of accountability, but it's just as important. Like, you're going to have to change some sort of, or do something to do with your environment or your habits or your rituals, as well as that accountability.
Yes. I just think when we don't want to hold as husband and wife or whatever, as partners, we want to make sure that we stay as that, not as each other's like workout coaches, that kind of stuff. Or, like nitpicking each other's diet, that kind of stuff. Just support and leadership is great there. But I think that's a great place to start. But let's make it real for just a second here and say, what if you are one of the individuals, because I hear this and I know the people that are watching here tonight, and they say, I'm that person that's at risk. I'm 68 years old and I have a history of blank. So let's go through some of those. If we have a minute left here, do we have a couple minutes? Yeah. Let's go through some of the major ones. I'll just start with this. If you have any history with heart disease, that goes with blood pressure, that goes with AFib, you have anything heart, you absolutely positively should be taking more B vitamins. That's one of the simplest things. They got to be whole food B vitamin. They can't be synthetics. And there's three things that you have to eyeball and start to improve. And listen, this is what I mean. So if you have one of these pre-existing conditions and you're not having a strategy to win, that means stay alive. And all it is not to lose. The next couple of years are gonna be brutal for you, because all you're gonna do is follow Fred's footsteps, and all you're gonna do is keep following and following and following. And it won't be out of love. It's gonna be out of fear. And that's a classic thing that, Fearful Fred does, where Harry the hero, just out of love, he doesn't care about the failure because he's loving what he's doing. So if you have any heart conditions, really, sleep, sugar, stress. I will say, let's say you can't do anything about the stress. Sleep and sugar, you can. Those are very fixable. If you have poor sleeping issues, you can't manage them yourself, get with a practitioner, get with someone like myself. There's always a strategy. You got to improve that. If you don't sleep, you won't heal. You'll wear people who don't sleep, unfortunately, wear their hearts out at like twice the rate. So that's a big issue when it comes to our country. That's 600,000 people die, and almost all of them have an associated sleeping issue. So just let's tie those two together. So if you say, man, I got pre-existing, therefore I have to go get the shot, the mask, the distancing, whatever. No, you have other strategies available for you. So let's just say, take diabetes and obesity for a moment. Sugar. Let's just go there. So you got sugar, sleep, and stress, right? Just tackle sugar. So if we just tackled those three things, Karen, as pre-existing: diabetes, obesity, and heart disease, all the different heart diseases, that's over 85% of the people in our country that have passed away from COVID. That right there that should make us all sit back and really ask the question, wow, are we asking the right questions? Are we even in the right direction? The answer is no, we're not. The strategies we have right now are not going to get us stronger. We're not going to get us in a place where we want to operate out of love and really excited about the actions that we're taking. So those people, and again, if you have diabetes, if you have obesity, listen, we just did that cleanse. You want to stop sugar? There's an herb out there called Genema, safer than anything you're ever going to take. It destroys your desire for sugar, period. So it's that simple, but you got to want to have that. You got to want to get to tackle that pre-existing condition, so you don't, when you do, which you will, be punched in the face, that you can handle that punch better.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really looking at strategies for each thing, for each, way you want to level up. But if you've got conditions, there's things you can do. Take back responsibility and control of your health, really, is what we're talking about. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, we didn't talk about this. You've got anything else you want to make sure we cover, or we're going to move on to the last question?
We can move on to the last question. I think that's it. And again, if some of that stung, you guys, I think you know me well enough, and I hope that you understand that comes from my heart. I practice every day, and not every day, but a couple of days a week with people, and of course, with people, right, and dogs. Yeah. And these are the real things that come up. And, every day when I think about how can I become a better practitioner, is bring up these topics and bring up these conversations. They're different than ones we used to have. It used to be able to just say, hey, what do you want to do? Lose a couple pounds. Now we've got to get inside our heads. Now we've got to get better at managing this guy. If we don't manage this guy right here, this goes for all guys and girls listening to this, someone's managing it for you. And it's that simple.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that leads into, so we've talked about a lot of things. Maybe that's part of it. What is going to be our one action item that everyone takes from this call to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
Well, I think, I gave that someone, I actually thought about that one prior. And I think what it really boils down to is this, and I think it's important that we give ourselves permission to go all in. Permission to fail, permission to get uncomfortable, permission to literally want to be the best version of ourselves. And if we give ourselves that permission, man, the whole game just changes. It's a fun game. It's not a fearful game. So I'm gonna end it on that word right there, on permission.
I love that. And what you just said as well, like, you can make it fun. we have talked about some scary topics and some stuff is coming up that makes it fearful, but this whole health journey can be fun. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I can't have chocolate anymore and that's not fun. Like there are lots of things you can do in your health journey heading towards superhuman that totally makes it fun. So I love that. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening today. We're going to be back same time next week for another episode of the Health Made Simple show.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. As usual, keep doing the thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love. And as usual, make sure you take deliberate action for your mind, your body, your overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.